She's at home. She goes and checks the mail and finds out that her best friend that she's trusting to take care of her and her kid is taking custody away from her, and she doesn't even know it. She immediately calls Janie and asks her what was going on. When Rachel asked Janie flat out if she was suing her for custody of Ryder, Janie just simply said yes and hung up the phone on her. This scared Rachel so much that she ended up calling the police and telling them that her best friend had her son and he was not giving him back to her. The cops came and they ended up telling Rachel that, hey, we got something that we need to tell you. It hasn't been served to you yet, but Janie has actually filed a protective order against you, a restraining order. So Janie had all this stuff going on behind the scenes, plotting against her, and she had no idea. As a matter of fact, Janie had told the police that she was worried about Ryder being around Rachel because of Rachel being on all these pain medications and whatnot. Rachel, on top of already dealing with like this huge back injury where she had to quit being a paramedic, was going through a lot. Between 2015 and 2018, Rachel ended up having 7 back surgeries total. And each time, Janie would have to take like all the responsibility over Ryder and for everything else going on in the home. And on top of that, Rachel listed Janie as the guardian of Ryder if anything ever happened to her. Rachel said that at that point, she had no choice but to pack up all the stuff that she had and go to a hotel without her son, Ryder. 10 days later, CPS came to talk to Rachel, and Rachel told them that she didn't have a problem. She was only taking the medication after her surgery to manage the pain. Janie apparently forgot to mention the surgery part to CPS. She just made it sound like Rachel was just like popping all these pills for no reason because she had some sort of like... Now, this is when CPS decided that it was safe to return Ryder back to his mother, Rachel. Instead of going back to Janie's house, however, Rachel and Ryder went to a shelter. And it was a challenging place for her to be there with her son, Ryder, who has autism. He was constantly asking Rachel if they could go home. 6 weeks after being at this shelter, Janie called Rachel right out of the blue and asked if she could see Ryder. So Rachel agreed to meet up at a park where Janie apologized to Rachel for what happened. And at this point, Janie invited Rachel and Ryder to move back in with her. Rachel said yes, and she moved back in. Her and Ryder did. Now, Rachel knew that she had another surgery coming up, and she didn't have anyone else to help her at the time while she was recovering. But little did Rachel know that Janie would only make Rachel's recovery much, much worse. In December of 2019, according to Rachel, Janie seemed a little off. Something seemed very dark about her, to the point where she was even leaving Ryder in situations that she didn't believe was very safe. So Rachel told Janie that she was taking Janie out of her will and she was going to make her father the beneficiary of Ryder's legal guardianship if anything was to ever happen to her. Which, if I would have been Rachel's friend at that time, I'd have been like, girl, just do it. Don't tell her that you're going to do it, but just do it quietly. Nevertheless, as you guys can imagine, after everything that Janie had did for Rachel, it completely enraged her. At the same time, the local FBI office was tipped off by an undercover FBI agent saying that there was a person attempting to purchase $300 worth of Versa on the dark web. Now, this was considered a purchase of an item that could be used for mass destruction, and this was very concerning to the FBI. Versa is very similar to MRSA in that it is an incredibly serious staph infection. However, with this strain specifically, it is even more antibiotic resistant, especially to the same antibiotic that ended up saving Rachel's life when she had MRSA. Janie was cleaning and redressing Rachel's incision site on the back of her neck. But then Rachel started noticing pain at that incision site. At the hospital, the incision had to be reopened and cleaned completely out. One time, she went in for another infection in her neck, and the culture came back positive for the bacteria E. coli. Now, E. coli bacteria isn't typically found in surgical wounds because it is only normally found in water, food, and the intestines of people and animals. The doctor said that it was injected directly into the wound. So they think that Janie tried to kill Rachel at least 5 times during that year alone. They also learned all about Janie trying to get custody of Rachel's son Ryder and wondered if it was related. Janie was on the dark web pretending to be a science teacher trying to purchase Versa for a science experiment. When Janie made the order, she requested overnight shipping, she needed it immediately. Fortunately, the order was intercepted by this undercover FBI agent. The local FBI unit took this as an opportunity to go undercover and plant a fake package at Janie's P.O. box that she was supposed to have the real Versa delivered to. And they all sat and waited outside the UPS store to see if Janie came to pick it up. And guess what? She did. They ended up following Janie back to her office, and then that's when they made contact with her and they began to question her. During this interview, Janie initially said that she thought that she bought coffee, which is so interesting, right? She thought she was buying coffee beans. The second story that she told was that the item that she purchased was so she could make beer at home for New Year's Eve, but she hadn't bought any other supplies to make beer at home. When the agents pushed her harder, Janie said that she did purchase Versa because she wanted to do some research on it to help Rachel.
Did it ever cross your mind to use the biological agent on Rachel?
No. Wouldn't even know how to do that. No, she's my best friend, and whether we argue or not, she's been my best friend for 25 years. I love her like a sister.
So finally, after they got that out of her, she finally admitted that yes, she was purchasing that item. This is when they arrested 51-year-old Janie, and they arrested her for the attempt to purchase an item of mass destruction. The agents then went to the house with a search warrant where they had to explain what was going on to Rachel. Now, at first, the agents just sat down with Rachel and they were asking her a ton of questions about Janie. And Rachel said that she was so confused and Rachel was talking so positive about her. She's my best friend of 25 years, I love her. And then when they finally told her, Rachel was completely shocked. Rachel genuinely thought that there must have been some sort of misunderstanding. But then the agents told Rachel that this was not the first time that Janie ordered something off the dark web. In June of 2019, Rachel says that she remembers Janie putting her in bed and giving her medication. The next thing she knew, she woke up in the hospital. When she wakes up in the hospital and she's figuring out, why am I here? What happened? This is when she was told that she had a critically low glucose level of 13. Glucose is the amount of sugar in your body. That's when everything just began to click for her. Janie must have been injecting Rachel with insulin when she was in bed sleeping all those times that she ended up in the hospital with critically low glucose levels. As the investigation continued to progress, more and more information started to come out. And not only was Janie ordering insulin and Versa on the dark web, but she also ordered sedatives. Agents did find an empty insulin injector pen at Janie's office. This pen had Rachel's DNA found on the inside of it. Janie was officially charged with aggravated abuse of a vulnerable adult, attempted aggravated abuse of a vulnerable adult, and attempted acquisition of a biological weapon. Janie pled guilty to the charges and she was sentenced 1 to 20 years. This is dangerous stuff.
When I was reading my statement, I could see her. She didn't care. Strangers seem to care more than she does. That was really painful for me.
At her first parole hearing, Janie was granted parole and released after spending 25 months in prison. Yeah, 25 months, you guys. The calculation that you have to go through to do all of this. We're not talking about an impulsive decision that you make in the heat of the moment. When asked, though, the prosecutor said that he didn't charge Janie with attempted murder because he didn't have enough evidence to prove that she was actually trying to kill Rachel. Now, we watched this on a new episode of The Worst Roommate Ever, and it is on Netflix. In it, at the very end, a clip of Janie talking to someone while she is in jail is played. In the clip, Janie says, "I know what's going to happen. I'm going to end up out of here, and I'm going to find a way to get him away from her. He needs to come back to me now." Now, she is out. Okay, so Janie is out now. She has been out. She served 25 months, which again is mind-blowing to me. Mind-blowing. I was listening to the prosecutor do like this interview afterwards, and when he was asked about it, he said that it's something to do with Utah's laws and their system there, that when she went before the parole board thought that with Janie's education, that, you know, she was more suitable on the street, and she is under supervision. She's supposed to be under some sort of like tight supervision. I don't know if that's house arrest, or I don't know if that's probation or what it is, but we're talking about a year plus in the making. That kind of person, to me, in my unprofessional personal opinion, is scary. Because how do you go to sleep every night knowing what you're planning? Looking at your friend sick in the bed. And God bless Rachel's soul, because when I watched her and I watched interviews of her afterwards, I thought she seems so nice. And no offense if she ever sees this, I don't mean this in a disrespectful way, but almost naive, right? Because even when the FBI agent sat down in her house and spoke to her face to face, she was still taken up for Janie. Oh no, she would never. She put a restraining order on you and was going behind your back at CPS, girl. Yes, she will. Yes, she would. I have seen people get more time than that for far less. And it's just shocking to me. There is a happy ending with this story as far as Rachel goes. She's doing well. She has her son Ryder. He seems so precious. She's found unique ways to communicate with him and to get him to communicate. And she uses music with her son, and she seems happy, and she's walking, and she seems healthy from what we can see. So that is wonderful. And wow. Thank y'all so much for watching this video, and I will see y'all in the next one. Love you guys. Bye.